Thank you to all of you who have joined this evening. Just a little primer for our conversation this evening. This really is less of a webinar in the sense of presenting new information, sharing the hot off the press stewardship tips, and more of a follow-up to our last webinar back in June. If you haven't seen that, we'll show you in just a moment how to find it. We'll run over some of those highlights, but then really just jumping in tonight, as we were saying, when I signed on, there were already a few on. Nina was sharing from Good Shepherd in Kansas City that they just got their pledge letters out. I was sharing that we at St. James in Springfield are almost ready to get ours sent out, so I know we're all in different places in the planning process. So tonight we're focusing on and naming the fact that there is still time to succeed with a fall pledge drive. I know many of us have years in the past and never recently waited till the last second to get our pledge drives kicked off. So whether you and your church have already started receiving pledges, or whether you haven't even thought about a theme or when you might begin, there's still time to succeed. So with that, Zach, if you would pull up our PowerPoint for us, just so we have a bit of a guide to follow. And again, we will really be more of a conversation, but we'll start with looking at a little bit of information to kind of ground us and help us find our location. So just a few things that we will do, just a brief reintroduction for those who perhaps have not joined these webinars from the Stewardship Commission in the past. Again, we'll recap some of the things that happened in the last webinar, show you how to find those, but really just sharing around the room, sharing updates. I know we've received at least one, maybe a couple of updates from those who have participated in previous conversations and wanted to share an update but couldn't be with us this evening. So we will share around the room. We've got, I think it looks like the entirety of the Stewardship Commission on the call at the moment. And we're all here to help share from our own experiences and resources we're familiar with, so that all of us across the diocese can succeed with our pledge drives this fall. So with that, Zach, if you would take us to the next slide, just a reminder of who we are here. Again, we're kind of spread out around the diocese. Amy Amison chairs this group, and you'll see there on the bottom of the slide, we are open to having others join our group. If you have been interested in stewardship in any of its varieties, pledge drive, year-round stewardship, estate planning, or otherwise, feel free to reach out to Amy or one of us, and we would love to connect with you and see if this might be a great place for you to join in with the ministry of the diocese at large. Okay, and Zach, if you would take us on one more. So again, this is a really high-level overview of some of the content we covered in our last webinar at the end of June, and these are just some quick facts. I invite you, even if you were part of that and you'd like a refresher, go back and find the video and see what we mean by each of these. But just a few bullet points of best practices for naming things to consider no matter where you are in your process. But first, engaging leaders. This is not a one-person show. Stewardship takes the entire body, and so this is something we all do collaboratively. The next step truly is planning. Planning is crucial. Whether you're starting at the last second or not, having a plan and ready to execute it makes all the difference in the end, to make sure that you're not missing folks, that you're communicating well and consistently, and that you're able to receive the pledges you would hope to receive. The next, and again, this is just a header, but approach solicitation with a healthy frame of mind. We talked a little bit about what all that means in our last webinar, and I know that's certainly something I personally always need a refresher on, is when it comes to questions of solicitation and how are we going to reach out. It's always good to know there's some best practices out there. And then as you're planning and as you're doing all of this work, structuring the campaign to acknowledge that there are different ways of giving. I'm in a new parish context to me. It'll be 5 months this week. And I'm still learning some of the patterns here. And just this week in our finance committee meeting, learned so many different ways in which people give to the church that I hadn't experienced in previous parishes. So be aware, know how people in your parish give, or what other new ways they might want to give. Okay, Zach, if you take us one more. And part of that all comes with knowing what motivates people to give. Do people want to give to operations? Do they want to give to outreach or special projects? Do they give because they love the music at the church or for the community? Know what's important there. Ask in effective ways. There's so many different ways. Some people need the personal, others are going to respond to a broad call, and everything in between. And then follow up. Follow up is key. It's one thing to get a pledge in hand. It's another thing to maintain that kind of communal relationship we have as a parish or a congregation, of sharing together in this work, of naming the logistical and practical steps it takes to plan our ministries together for the year, and following up, continuing that relationship. If you haven't heard from someone, check in, see if they still intend to pledge. Thank those, and that's crucial. Thank people for pledging. So Zach's going to take us through just the next few slides. This is how you might find that previous webinar. So if you go to the spirit.diowestmo.org website, or if you go to the regular website, you can click news and events, but spirit.diowestmo, and in the upper right hand corner you'll see the search bar, and when you click that, you have this little pop-up where you can search for stewardship. And once you search, you will be able to scroll down, and the last video is a little bit of a ways down there, but you'll see the June 20th webinar. And once you click that, the recording is there. You can find the presentation and all of it, and be able to look back through what some of those best practices are and the other resources we link to there. Thank you, Zach, for walking us through that. And if you'll take us into the next step. And just a teaser one, and just to say kudos to Zach and the work of the diocese. That convoluted site that it takes 17 steps to find something on is going away soon. I know that's not spoiling any news that's been announced, but I've seen some drafts of what the future look like, and I'll personally say I'm excited. So one resource that we rely on quite a bit, and that the Stewardship Commission has all really focused on, is the Episcopal Network for Stewardship, TENS. This is something, if you've not used it, and we've talked about this in previous videos, but just a reminder, you can sign in. The login information is there. You can also find it elsewhere on the diocesan website. There are customizable stewardship pledge drive programs you can use from there, from template form letters to send out to your parish that might just need a little bit of tweaking, to pledge cards, and a whole plan and timeline. Everything you need to start with is right there. So just a reminder. And then one more, Zach, and I think that takes us into our conversation for this evening. So there's just a list of questions here, and feel free to respond to any of these, or feel free to take us a completely different direction, as we are just checking in all around the room and all around the diocese. But some questions to think about where you are in your process. And again, every church is going to approach this a little differently, and so you might approach things in a slightly different order. But these are just some of the common things to be working on at this time. Have you looked at the resources from TENS, or maybe you're using some from elsewhere? Are your pledge cards ready? I will be the first to say ours at St. James Springfield are not, but they will be next week. Are you using stewardship minutes? That's something we talked about in the last webinar, of checking in with folks and sharing where you are in the stewardship process, or having stewardship reflections as part of a bigger year-round stewardship process. Have you worked through those logistics of mailings? What all are you including? Are you including just a a letter? Are you mailing anything at all? Are you mailing a pledge card? Are you going to have a QR code in there? Are you going to remind people what they pledged last year? Any or all of the above are have been found. You could find those in any parish, not all of them in any parish, but one or two of them probably in every parish. How is your pledge drive contributing to your overall budget? That's one thing to be mindful of, that these conversations happen together as church communities. Are what we contribute financially in the pledging portion really is so much of it is determining and determinative of what our ministries are going to be throughout the whole year. So the two do go hand in hand, because it is from our shared life and labor that we give these gifts, both financially and also of our other talents. Are your follow-up plans in place? Are you ready to give a thank you card the very first week you announce your pledge drive, when someone's just ready to hand in that pledge card? And are your other acknowledgements ready to go to thank those who've contributed? So just those are some questions to be thinking about, some logistics that sometimes can be glossed over and thought, oh, we'll come back to those. But just some things to be thinking about there. And then Zach, I think you'll just push us one more. I think we're just the slides kind of generic question. Yeah. So now what do we do? So Zach, if you'll take down the screen share so we can see each other, we can discuss any or all of those questions, or any other logistics related to your pledge drive. Again, I've shared a little bit about where we are at St. James in Springfield. We've got some designs ready. We're in process. Next week is our time of gathering to fold and stamp and seal and send out all of those envelopes of materials. So that's about where we are in this process. Where are you? If you would share, if you're willing to do so, what church you're with too, so we know where around the diocese we've got representation, and what's working well for you so far. What questions do you have? The floor is yours. Yes, Cindy.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting started getting our letter together. But I had a question on something that you mentioned in your presentation. Due to the fact that we're such a small congregation, and I don't know how other churches do this, I'm with St. Mary Mag, okay? And how do you handle the being discreet about what people are pledging? If, do you have a group of people working together to send out these pledge letters or thank yous? Or we've come across that a couple of times where we're just, how many people need to know what a person has pledged?
And I'll say, Cindy, you're not alone in that. That question comes up all the time, and not just in these groups, but more broadly. And I'll just remind all of us, we're a diocese of small churches. A quarter of the churches in our diocese have an ASA of less than 20. We are a diocese of small churches, and every church does handle that differently. I can only speak for the parishes I've been part of. At one parish where I was the pledge drive coordinator, there were, I think, 3 or 4 of us who saw the numbers that were written down next to people's names. I've served another parish where it was just, here's the list, everybody shows up on one Sunday, it all gets tallied right there in person, and everyone knows. And it's really the comfort level. And again, there's a level of transparency and trust when we share in the ministries of our churches. There's also a level of security and trust of only allowing a select few to know. So those are just two examples I have. What from others of you, what has that looked like in your context? Amy or Linda?
At St. John's, we've done it the same way for a long time. The chair of the Stewardship Committee gets the pledge cards, almost immediately sends a thank you letter, which includes the amount and there's a spreadsheet that goes to the rector and the treasurer. And other than that, the amounts are not shared. Now we do a display board, which is updated. We don't do it immediately because some of the big pledges come in immediately. And if you do statistics immediately, the numbers are rather frightening to the people who are not pledging so much. So we kind of delay that by a couple of weeks. And we have, it's usually one of those foam board things that's bigger in the middle and wings on the side that are a little more narrow, with some pictures and, whatever and try to tie it to the theme. Rooted in abundance this year, the tens thing. But we have statistics on amounts and averages, mean and median, percentages up, percentages down, percentages the same, percentages more than 10% or more up. Little charts, a series of 4 charts. And then those are updated, weekly until the thing kind of runs out of steam. And then the updating stops. But that way people can see, but it's an aggregate amount. And we keep saying pledge cards are available. And they can be found here and so forth up until, basically the end of the year.
Yeah.
Cindy, I've seen a few things. One is where the chair of the stewardship committee and the treasurer and one staff member see all of it. At Christ Church, where I am now, the only person who saw it was our staff member and the treasurer. I'm not sure if the priest saw it or not. And our thank yous, as somebody who would rather be able to do something a little more personal, what we did was when pledge cards came in, we did thank you notes from the 2 co-chairs of the stewardship committee, just thanking them for turning in their pledge right away so that we at least got a quick thank you out. And then the priest sent all the thank you letters through like December 15th at one time and thanked them for the amount. So it's a comfort level, but I think no matter who sees it, making sure that the acknowledgements happen no matter what.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And Ms. Shirley?
And good evening. At St. Aug's, we have just the treasurer and myself as the senior warden see the pledge cards. Father Chaz doesn't have no interest in looking at them or knowing how much it is, as long as we cover the budget and we can pay his salary. That's number one.
In that order?
And in that order, yes, sir. I'm sure if it didn't clear, he'll let us know. But anyway, we also do thank you letters as well. We start out really, I think we started a little bit late, but we do start it in November and we go through the end of the year. We also have already got our budget pretty well set. So we do have people from the vestry or other people making a statement to the congregation about why they pledge and what they give. They don't tell what they give, but they do tell about why they pledge, how the importance of it pledging to the church. That way, we will have to have some other additional campaigning this year because as most places have some kind of building problem or something falling down and got to be repaired. So that'll be an extra step going forward. But letters are out immediately, and we do send a pledge card and a letter at the same time for the first go round. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
I know that in our church, basically I'm the treasurer, so I get to see all the pledges that come in. And that's what I base our budget on, because they are actual dollars that people say they're going to be pledging. So it isn't probably till December or so until we have an in-gathering date or we have an end date. And at that time, then I put a budget together and based on our figures that we received. But until then, it's, we kind of, it's like a work in progress, trying to get the money in and a budget finalized so that we can have it approved and by the first of the year for the annual meeting.
Excellent. Yes, and thank you. And thank you for also acknowledging too that that kind of budgetary negotiation of pledges and expenses. I mean, truly two sides of the same coin. What we contribute financially also is part of what we do collectively for our whole ministry. Did I hear someone else try to chime in?
This is Judy,
Hi, Judy.
with St. Matthews. I'm on my phone, so I don't know if you can see me, but this is the first year that I've worked with stewardship and been on the committee. And so far, we haven't gotten anything going, and that's my fault. But we will be starting that here in the next few weeks.
There's still time to succeed.
Yes, thank you. Also, just in terms of our process, it's all at St. Matthews in Raytown. It's all very secretive. Nobody sees the pledge cards except our treasurer. And he's been our treasurer for many, many years. And he's one of the few people on this earth, I think, that can really keep a confidence. So everybody has a high confidence that he will keep their business confidential. But we do something similar. We send out letters for the pledge drive. We have presenters, usually 3, that get up and give presentations to the congregation, on why pledging is important, why it's important to them. And I did one last year and just, talked about some of my personal experiences and then, encouraged people to increase their pledges as they were able. And even when they get additional funds come in, don't forget that, and also consider making a contribution based on that. And I don't believe that I have ever gotten a thank you note from pledging. So I don't think that has been a practice at St. Matthews, at least not in the years that I've been back and pledging. So I think that's something that we want to get started this year to make sure that sort of thing goes out. So that's it in a nutshell, I think.
All sounds great. And it sounds like progress and trying something new too. So, and kudos to you for stepping into that.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'll
Yes.
say at Good Shepherd, it's very secret there too. Nobody knows except our pledge secretary, and I'm the treasurer, and I don't know either who gives what. So sending out thank yous is kind of difficult, and I'm with Judy. I've never received one either, ever. But we do every year do a thank you dinner. So in November, we already have it scheduled for a dinner to thank everybody for a successful pledge campaign, hopefully. So
Excellent. Thank you. So yes, there are lots of different ways of handling that confidentiality and lots of ways of thanking folks. Sometimes it's a very quick signed thing, or perhaps it's a confirmation of an amount down the road, or it's a dinner, all of the above. I do want to share, we did get an update from Beth Yettle King over at Grace Carthage. and I'm putting an image in the chat. Let's see if that sends. I've not had luck with that previously. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I don't know if you all can see this. They're not using the tens theme this year. They're going with the fruit of I'm talking about fruit and harvesting and the fruit of the Spirit. And so part of their materials that they created this year is they shared some of the fruit of their ministry this year to date, to name what the pledged amounts have paid for throughout the year, and talked about the number of times the sacraments have been distributed, how they've cared for their neighbors, donated 250 pounds of bird seed, they've helped $3,500 in scholarships, monies to food pantries, eliminated, this is a big one, eliminated student debt in Jasper County, student lunch debt from the schools there, volunteer hours at the Episcopal Nursing Home there in Carthage, 400 pounds of food, $18,000 to support other Episcopal churches. So, you know, they really are celebrating that fruit and reminding people what all their pledges are going to contribute to. And just a note Beth shared with us, let's see, they really revised their plans to emphasize the ongoing nature of stewardship. So they included that infographic that we shared and a few other visuals in a whole packet that got sent out to everyone. 2 weeks ago, they had a stewardship breakfast that happened between their 2 Sunday morning services. Let's see here. And they had a speaker during that time talk about stewardship and why they pledge. And they received a number of pledge cards just on that kickoff Sunday with their pledge breakfast. And they're about to start a fair, she has in quotation marks, to spread the word about their various ministries. And part of that fair and showing off what all happens in the life of the church will be an opportunity to give a pledge. And I know this is Beth's first year at Grace Carthage doing this work, and I think most of what she shared is some new adventures they're trying there in terms of pledge drives and year-round stewardship. So lots of examples out there. What else? Where else is everyone else in the process? What questions do you have? What roadblocks are you running into, or what early successes are you having?
Father Isaac, I was interested in knowing how many actually send out additional information at the half year.
That's a good question. So sending out
reminders, or just telling the half year we send out information on the pledges as far as you are or where you're at. Sure. Hopefully letting people know if they're behind to catch up before the end of the year.
Yeah, I know we do that at St. James Springfield, and 2 of the parishes I've served in the past have done that halfway through the year. Do other churches
do it quarterly?
Quarterly.
Ooh,
okay.
You know what's really good about that is that first one is getting one not too long after the first of the year, and if they've gotten, you know, if they've already gotten behind, it's an easier catch up.
Right.
Sure. A little bit of a slow start there. Jump in. Yes. Linda, it looked like you were about to. Yes.
Yeah, we do quarterly statements. The treasurers do quarterly statements, but sometimes the stewardship committee will pre-stuff those envelopes with a letter or a little essay or something, and then the treasurers put in the statement and send it. So we don't see anybody's statement, but there's an additional message for the same amount of postage.
Very nice. And that also contributes to the year-round stewardship theme. And just another plug for TENS. TENS has, I think, monthly reflections for stewardship based on the theme for the year. And then there are weekly ones to use throughout the pledge drive. But there are monthly ones you can use throughout the year whenever you're sending these out. Okay. When else do other churches send out giving statements throughout the year, check-ins of some way?
I got a question. I just had a question on that. As far as like when people pledge, and usually you have a core number of people that always pledge, and you have those that will give, but they don't pledge. They don't feel like they should. They don't want to write something down. I don't know whether it's a commitment thing or what it is, but we have a good supply of people who will give not pledge. Do you contact those people and ask them to pledge, or what do most churches do? Because usually what we do is we just go with who pledges and then kind of guesstimate what we might get as non-pledges, and usually it's a pretty good guess on that. But do you think people feel obligated if you don't send them a reminder? Or I just wanted to get a feel for that, because we don't call people who haven't pledged and said, hey, I don't want them to feel guilty or feel bad about it. Maybe there's some financial situation that they have encountered that's not going to be favorable and they can't. Does that make them feel like they're dropping the ball and not being able to pull their own weight? What do the other churches feel in that regards?
I'll say one step, if your churches aren't doing this, if you have a list of those who haven't pledged, and however you come by that list might look differently, whether it's people who've pledged in the past and aren't this year, or just people in the directory that aren't, that you haven't received a pledge from. Check in with your clergy, or others who might know those kinds of situations that might preclude someone from giving, or might explain a delay in giving a pledge. I know that's certainly something we do. And sometimes that looks like checking in. I know in one parish I served, it was the treasurer's job to call everyone who hadn't pledged and just a gentle reminder. And in my current parish, it's the role of the rector to do that typically. So what else? What has that looked like in other places?
I can tell you what we do at St. Mary's, Kansas City.
Yeah, thanks, Raja.
I send quarterly reminders each quarter, and so end of quarter 3, I will include that in with the pledge packet. And that kind of gives you what what you pledged last year and where you're at currently. But with our goal has always been to, if we track people who put money in the plate, if they use a check or offering envelope with their name, and we track that as plate income. But then our goal is we see those people at the pledge campaign, and we reach out to them personally, one-on-one, to ask them if they'd be willing to convert that to a pledge. Thus, it makes this easier for us to, budget and forecast expenses. And, our goal is to minimize plate income and maximize pledge income. And that seems to, it's kept us in pretty good stead so far. But I can tell you currently our plate income, and these are people that generally are giving by check. We way over exceeded our budget. We budget $12,000 in plate, and currently we're at over 14,000 in plate, and we're just going into October. So I would like to use that opportunity to convert those to pledges, and again, we do that by one-on-one, inviting them to lunch or coffee, and having that personal contact, and and see where it goes. So that's what we do.
I love that, and giving additional opportunities to allow folks to grow into stewardship in different ways, to have multiple chances then to step into a pledging, to become a pledger. And that sounds like an excellent plan, and you've seen the fruit of that, it sounds like.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. And I think, and something you mentioned and leaned into a bit, I want to pick out of there, is naming that it does help. It helps the vestry and the finance committee, or whatever that looks like, in each setting, to set a realistic budget, and just to say this is part of our common life, and it's just a practicality. One thing I always like to say when it comes to pledges is to remind people that yes, it's a pledge. It's something you actually intend to contribute into the life of the church. If, for any number of reasons, you're no longer able to fulfill that pledge, situations change and life happens. Let us know. It's not that kind of commitment. We're not going to send a bill for it. I think that takes off some of the edge. Some people have, at least in my experience, have had when they had an aversion to pledging, was they didn't want it to come like a bill. And so I think that's always a helpful reminder to just say it's a practical step of being part of this community. What else? Anyone else have some early successes in their program, or any roadblocks that you're really trying to get over?
I have a question.
Mhm.
What do you all include on your pledge cards besides name and how much they're pledging? Do you include other things like a QR code, or have you included us? Do you want information about plan giving, or do you all include anything else?
It's a really good question. I know those get customized in many places.
We include lines that I have remembered Good Shepherd in my will, or I want information on that. And but that's all. But I wish now, we did redo our pledge card just this year, but I wish now I had thought about the QR code, which I didn't, because that's a great thing to put on there.
Next year.
Yeah, next year.
Well, I think that the TENS program this year, the pledge card is vastly improved because it's two-sided, and the back side is just as important as the front side. If you're not familiar, it asks them also giving of talent and time. What might you be interested in doing? And that's kind of how we always market stewardship anyway. It's talent, time, and treasure. Include all three of those into your pledge. So this year, the TENS program card is, I think, vastly improved.
Thanks.
Yes.
Christina from St. Matthew's Raytown. We
Yes.
have a separate sheet that has the time and talent on it, because the financial portion goes to the treasurer and the rest of it isn't as confidential.
We named for our stewardship committee here at St. James, as pledging is a time of discernment for each person or family unit that's pledging, time to discern what they're contributing in the life of the church, to give an opportunity for this, especially those who have been serving in the same capacity for 20, 25 years or more, to give an opportunity to discern how they might give in the life of the parish in terms of their leadership or their skills or their abilities. Again, one person came to us and said, yeah, I've done this exact same ministry for 20 years. And I think I'm in a different stage of life. And I want to try something new. And she said it would be great if the pledge card included an opportunity for that. One thing we include are some of the volunteer opportunities, and you can check if you'd like to participate, if you'd like to be on the altar guild or an acolyte, or staffing booths at community events, or sharing in the live stream. So we have some of those practical things, but also blank space for jumping in. We also include a question of, what do you sense is our future? What's the vision? What's God calling us to do as a parish? So that the pledge cards are not only helping shape the budget in the sense of, we can afford to do X, Y, and Z, but also it really shows where the priorities and leanings of the parish are, so we can attune our budget accordingly.
I have another question. I'm full of questions tonight.
Great.
It's fun to be able to do that. How many of you all are segmenting your letters, like one letter to people who don't pledge regularly, and one to those who do, or some combination thereof.
I can answer that for two. I attend Good Shepherd, and I'm the treasurer there. We do not send separate letters, but I also work at St. Andrews, and they do separate by those who have increased, those stayed the same, and those have never pledged. So they have different letters for all those.
We at St. Mary's we have two. One, if you pledged last year, you get the standard pledge letter, and then if you have not pledged, you get a different letter. Same stuff in the packet, but just two different letters.
Excellent. Others, do you segment? I'll say I've not previously done that, but I like that idea though.
It's not as hard as it sounds. You can just have one paragraph or a couple of sentences that you just change, and thanking people for their previous pledge versus we hope you will, you don't have to make it as onerous as it may sound. It's separating them out is the hard part, and getting them with the right envelope.
Sure. Do any of you do any other segment? And if you do where do you draw those lines? How do you do so? What other ways can we be helpful as a stewardship commission, but also just as a group of people all doing this work in a variety of contexts and with a variety of experiences? How else can we help and support one another?
Can I tell you one thing that really helped me this year which I learned at the last seminar, was I handpicked my committee that I wanted to work with. And that was a blessing because I had people that were really knowledgeable, and then we had time to really work on it, not just write a letter and send it out. So that was the best thing that I got.
Absolutely. It's good to be able to have a team you can work with.
Yeah.
And that bring in a variety of different gifts and skills.
Do you have certain people that you brought on, Nina? Like, was it the senior warden, or just a variety of just a pick of anybody in the congregation?
No, it was not all vestry people, but there was one vestry person that I really like what he contributes at vestry and how he talks about things. So I asked him to be on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we tried to vary by age groups too. And yeah, not all vestry members.
That's not a bad idea, because you might get a different person's perspective, the people with the pew, their seat in the pews, versus people that have been on the vestry or have been on finance committee forever. Yeah. Because we're just, let's get some new perspective. Let's get some new people in here. Let's see what they want to hear. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I got roped into helping with a pledge drive. I think it was 2 months before I was confirmed. It's a good way to bring some people in sometimes too. I'll share that one.
There are a lot of great questions to ask people who have not been on it. Like, how'd you like the letter last year? And they say, what letter?
Yes.
Or, the link didn't work, or, just all those things that in different ages respond very differently to what we send. And that's one of the segments you can do is by ages, but that's a little harder. That does mean different letters.
Yes. One thing, Amy, to that point that I hadn't thought of, as someone on our stewardship committee here at St. James shared the idea today, when we have our asking the questions of how did our materials help you discern your pledge this year? And what all, more than just financially, but how all discern your ministries this year, and how might in future years we help you with that discernment in other ways. And I thought that was a brilliant idea that got shared with us today, so that we're continually evolving and more helpful process as we bring more and more people in. Let's see, Rosina, did I see you?
Yeah, I was wanting to say something. Basically, I'm here because we have such a very small parish. In sending out the letters, we probably send out 10 letters because we have about that many families. And so all of the segmenting and things, that's not us. I guess I'm trying to find out if there's anything that we can do to inspire people to want to pledge or pledge more. Because some of us do, and some of us come to church every Sunday and don't give a nickel. So even in that small group. So I'm looking for ideas to inspire. And a lot of these things, it's like we already know the answers because we're so small. I know these people do this. I know these people do that. And so sending a letter would be kind of, I don't know, like, why didn't you already know that kind of a thing from response from people? So I'm looking for some kind of something that might get some enthusiasm going.
Sure. And I think having that authenticity and the acknowledgement of your community and how you function together is important. Others from contexts that sound similar to Rosina's have ideas to share?
What brings your parish together besides Sunday? I mean, what things do they respond to?
Like, well, most of the, all but one of the women belong to the Order of the Daughters of the King. So that's something that draws us together. Usually when we have an event, most of us show up. Pretty much we're scattered geographically. That's one of the challenges. We have people, well, I live 20 miles away, somebody else lives 35 miles away, another one lives 45 miles away. And you start doing that, and then there's some who live 12 miles away. And when you have 10 families, it's kind of well, we get together on Sundays. Our vestry has to meet on Sundays because of our geographical problems. So
when you do gather, I guess that is the opportunity to have the conversation about why pledging is important.
Yeah.
And instead of sending out letters, just handing out pledge cards and just taking all those opportunities. And maybe somebody who's on the Daughters of the King could do that. So not one person is doing all of it, but have 2 or 3 of you who can join the groups as they gather or events and have that conversation.
Rosina, that would be a good idea. What? Yes.
Rosina, where are you located?
Chillicothe, Missouri, out in the middle of nowhere.
Chillicothe. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we just we were a very lively parish, and we ran into some challenges with a couple of our ministers, and we went from 65 people to 19.
Wow.
How would they respond to somebody from outside of your parish talking about it?
What are they trying to do? How are they trying to get our money? Seriously. Okay. We've run into that. Even, with having to do the parish audit, nobody wanted to do the audit, and Ron Wheel offered to do it, and people were going, well, he'll just take our money. It's bizarre up here, I guess is the best way I can put it.
It sounds like a bit of skepticism there. I
Last
Yeah.
wonder,
year, I had one of our partners that we work with, both financially and that some of the members donate their time to, come in and talk about how important our giving was and how it impacted them, to show how we give to the community. And I don't know if anybody else found it helpful, but it made me feel good.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
yeah, Rosina, I know if I remember correctly, in Chillicothe, you've got, I know there was a little bit of a pause after the bird flu or whatever it was coming through, but you all were, you got some refrigerators and giving away eggs. And I think maybe
Yep.
even Deacon Michael was starting to raise chickens to help offset some.
Yes. Yes,
So I
we've
wonder
done that.
highlighting some of those ministries that you're able to do and give to the community, and say, of course, there's the administrative side. How do we keep our lights on, pay our light
Yeah.
bill, and out of those kind of basic necessities, what else are we as collectively, even though we're spread out, what are we able to do together, even if we're not all out there grabbing eggs and handing out cartons?
Yeah.
What's the
Grabbing
ministry
eggs and handing out cartons is one person's ministry aside from Michael.
Sure.
And that's, yeah, we're just,
So maybe
there is
highlight
no,
some of those opportunities that you could engage in the future, and talk about the logistics of, covering the necessities and moving forward, what some of those outreach ideas are. And I think too, if you haven't played around on the TENS website, there might be some ideas out there too. And actually, kind of similar to that note, Zach, would you take us on the PowerPoint to slide 16? And Rosina, I'm thinking too, on this slide, there's a couple of other resources here. And again, we've shared these. We shared this in our previous webinar. So you've had these lists out there, and we'll share this one again. But in addition to TENS, these are four websites to look at for maybe some resources. The Episcopal Church Foundation has a variety of sources, and they put out, they call them, I think they're vestry letters every week additionally. So there's archives of all kinds of stories of success there from a variety of contexts. The Episcopal Parish Network in the last couple of years has really expanded their reach to look at the variety of parishes and congregations across the Episcopal Church. And not just one subset like they had previously. The Diocese of Olympia, they're in Western Washington. There is quite a large number of small churches there in that diocese, and they are ones who are known for producing some of these excellent stewardship resources. So I would recommend taking a look there. And then from the church development website, because church development starts from churches of every size. So I think these are some resources to maybe peruse and glean some ideas from.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We're always here to help. And again, feel free to reach out to any of us too, as we, we're, as a commission, we're here to support, all of our churches across the diocese, very much so.
Okay, thank
Zach,
you.
of course. Zach, will you take us to the next slide? Amy, do you want to mention briefly what some items might be on our agenda for next year as we look into stewardship?
Absolutely. Thank you. We have a host of different things we're hoping to do and planning to do this in 2024. As you all may know, 2023 was our first full year as a commission. So thank you for supporting us by attending and giving us feedback. One of our priorities is recruiting new members, and Father Isaac mentioned that. So if you are interested, please let me know. There's something called Project Resource Training. That's another organization that does the most effective. The training is when there's a team of like 3 or 2 from your stewardship committee maybe. And we're going to be able to help with some scholarship money for those this year. We're going to bring Jim Murphy from the Episcopal Church Foundation to the diocese to do a planned giving seminar, and he is fabulous. We're going to work with TENS to develop 4 specific webinars just for our diocese. As soon as I get information to Zach, we're going to rework our web pages. I know he is waiting on me, and you are next on my list of things to do, Zach. So thanks for your patience. And then we want to spend time coming out to see parishes and come visit you and meet with your committees or your vestry or whoever and help you in any way we can. We can also do stewardship sermons for you. So we're going to spend a little more time doing outreach next year.
Will certainly be an exciting time. So yes, stay tuned. And Zach, we're counting on you. So as this new website comes out, we'll continue pushing information out to everyone. Zach, if you'll push us one more slide over. I think, yes, this quote from the prayer book back in the catechism, part of what all it means to be the church is to work and pray and give for the spread of the kingdom. And certainly, as we've mentioned, what we give in our individual churches is an expression of and goes to support all of the ministries of our churches. It is all unified, and as Episcopalians, as members of the same diocese, we're all on the same team. While yes, Sundays we worship in our different communities, and we all have our own ministries that we participate in. We are all on the same team as a diocese, and all with the common mission of spreading the kingdom of God in Kansas City and Springfield, and in the middle of God's good creation in Chillicothe, Missouri. All around. That's all part of why we're here. Thank you all again for joining this evening, for joining our stewardship webinar, and for supporting each other and sharing ideas and resources in this conversation. Again, the Stewardship Commission's here. Our contact information is out there. Amy is doing a fantastic job organizing us and helping us be a resource to all of the diocese. So again, thank you all. I know we're coming to the end of our scheduled hour tonight. We'll get a recording of this out in the coming days or week or so. Get this posted, and again, look for the last one if you're stumbling across and need a few reminders of some of those helpful hints. Have a good evening, everyone. Bless you.